Those who know me on Facebook know that I have an addiction to quizzes. I have a hard time not taking them and posting my results. I am apparently a hipster parent, and if I were a mythical creature, I would be a dragon. Any quizzes, even the ones like, which rap star are you? And I didn't have any idea who the result was. So when I saw the quiz labeled, "Are you a bad feminist?" I'm sure you realize I had to take it. I had to. And I was more annoyed by that quiz than I was by about almost anything that whole week. Because my results were that I am a problematic feminist. In other words, I'm not feminist for some feminists in this country. Because I answered yes to questions like, do you wear makeup? And do you shave your legs? Seriously. And I answered no to questions like, have you ever played roller derby? Really? I'd be a better feminist if I were a hairy-legged roller derby player? I'd be the worst roller derby player ever, but that would determine my politics. My next quiz should probably be, what would your roller derby persona be? How can I be a bad feminist? I believe in and support the right for all women to vote, to own property, to determine her role in life, to work, to be treated equally and fairly in the workplace and society at large. Is that asking too much to be given equal status? Some people think so. They think feminism is damaging the minds and souls of our children. Feminists kill children. They emasculate men. And apparently are jackbooted thugs, since they get called feminazis. According to author and Fox News guest Nick Adams, feminism is even damaging national security. That's the next quiz I'd like to see. How much are you personally damaging national security? Because I'm pretty sure that one would get me on the NSA watch list. Some people are so threatened by the idea of women having any rights in society that they will go to horrifying extremes. There are the people who still have women in these are the people who still have women in a powerless position and they want to keep them there. This past month in West Africa, a group calling itself Boko Haram, which translates to Western education is forbidden, has famously kidnapped over 200 girls ages 16 to 18 and still holds them. Whether they are rescued or released or never get away from their captors, Boko Haram has at the very least disrupted their educations and their lives. That there has not been more done towards securing their return is a shame to all who have the power to do so and do not. And not even 2 years ago, a 15-year-old girl in Pakistan, Malala Yousafzai, I'm very sorry, was shot in the head by a Taliban soldier for having the temerity to speak out in defense of education for girls. This is a sign. A 15-year-old girl with a book is so terrifying to some men that they would try to kill her. She survived and has become a figurehead for the movement to educate all children all over the world. Malala names her mother, Thorpakai, as the anchor of her family, the source of her strength. Her mother, who does not speak in interviews she attends with her daughter, who does not herself read, who never attended school, supports her daughter's right to an education. I'm sure that Thorpakai wouldn't call herself a feminist, but she is. And in case you would be thinking that an educated female population is only frightening to Muslim extremists, consider that there is a strong movement in America to give girls and boys incorrect information on basic reproductive health, in the hopes of preventing girls from engaging in sexual activity before marriage. Abstinence-only education teaches that condoms don't work. Birth controls are a health risk. And only sluts use birth control anyway. Even more horrifying to me, they teach girls that their moral compass is somehow tied to their reproductive organs. Elizabeth Smart, the woman who, at the age of 14, was abducted from her Salt Lake City home and repeatedly raped by her abductor, has publicly blamed abstinence-only education for her not trying to escape. In her mind, having been raped, she had been spoiled, and she no longer had any value as a person. The abstinence-only movement has only led to increases in teen pregnancy in the states which use the method. That means more women, barely more than children, becoming mothers. This year marks the 100th anniversary of Mother's Day, being signed in as a national holiday in the U.S. At the same time that the suffrage movement was gaining women the vote, to gain women the vote was gaining traction. 100 years of honoring mothers across the country. 100 years of honoring the women who created us, who raised us, who cared for us, who didn't leave us by the side of the road when we were being pains in the butt. Thank you, Mom. 100 years ago, those mothers could not vote in America, could not get birth control of any kind, to delay or limit the number of children they had. They could be excluded from work based merely on gender, or fired from work for their marital status, or their pregnancy status. Things have changed a lot for mothers in our country. All women have the right to vote, the right to own property, the right to not be property. We can file for divorce from an abusive marriage. We can demand equal pay, equal respect, equal rights. The battle for women's rights in America is over, right? We've won. We can sit back on Mother's Day and bask in our successes. We can be mothers and we can be working professionals too, right? Feminism has done it all, and so now it's time for it to retire and go the way of the suffrage movement. Last year, Michelle Obama, Princeton alumni, lawyer, first lady, and, like me, a mother to 2 daughters, found herself under attack as being a feminist nightmare because she isn't tackling hard issues of gender inequality as the First Lady. She apparently is a problematic feminist just like me because she is spending too much time on her family and on issues of feeding children healthy food instead of lobbying for women's rights. But what about mothers' rights? I never intended to be a stay-at-home mother. When my first child was born, I discovered how difficult it was to find reliable, affordable care for an infant. Nearly impossible. My spouse and I managed to work out a schedule between his full-time but unconventional schedule and my full-time academic teaching load that had one of us home nearly all the time, and the 2 days a week that both of us worked, we hired a college student to look after our 2-month-old. When we finally made it to the top of the wait list for a decent and reliable daycare that would take infants, I found out that my contract with the university would not be renewed. And with only one income, the cost of daycare would be 1/3 of our annual salary. 1/3. More than our rent. Unemployed and with a 6-month-old baby, it was natural that I stayed home while also hunting for another job. But after a year of emotionally draining job search and limited in the amount of research that I could continue to produce, I decided to remove myself from the academic job market, and that was 9 years ago. I had it easy. I'm educated and middle class, with secretarial and bookkeeping experience in addition to my academic teaching position. And I knew that if I needed to work just to put food on the table, I could, with relative ease, get a job, any job, that would pay somewhat above minimum wage. Many women in this country do not have that luxury. I have a devoted spouse with a full-time job that provides health coverage. 65% of households below the poverty line are headed by single women, single mothers. trying to support a family on a minimum wage. For many of those women, daycare for small children is the largest obstacle. Daycare is very expensive, and though low-income families can get vouchers to pay for it, much of the daycare in our country is of low quality. Church-run or ministry daycares, which are very common, do not have to adhere to the strict standards of private daycare. Much daycare is provided under the table by completely unlicensed providers, like our college student. And of those women who do work, who do manage to find decent care for their kids, what then? The media loves to whip up the manufactured debate between working moms and stay-at-home moms, and it is manufactured. Some would have us believe that staying home is a betrayal of feminism. But how is this? Stay-at-home moms don't just sit at home and eat bonbons. Many are on school boards and work on home businesses. They are learning new skills at school or raising livestock and running households. My daughters understand that I have multiple jobs, of which mom is one. I'm also an artist and a marketing assistant, jobs which are rewarding in different ways. I'm lucky. I have an employer who is understanding and a job which allows me a great deal of flexibility in my hours, so I can be a stay-at-home mom and a working mom simultaneously. I'm glad I was able to stay home with them when they were younger, to play with them and to cuddle them. Now they're in school. I can still make an impact in their lives, but I can do so by being a foundation as well as a role model. I'm not a cupcake-making Pinterest mommy, keeping an immaculate home. Sorry, honey. Making all organic meals, keeping bees, and gleefully embracing the new domesticity. But so what if I were? It wouldn't make me less a believer in the equality of women. The only thing that could damage my political beliefs is if I were to do something to actually put women's equality on the chopping block, like trying to force women to marry, denying them access to education, giving blatantly wrong reproductive health information, or limiting access to child care and health care, which are, incidentally, things that there are people in America who are trying to do, all of those things. Oddly, there are women in this country who think that women don't deserve or need the gains of feminism. Most of these women have money and privilege, so they aren't worried about their own rights being denied, but they would limit the rights of women who are without power. They don't see us as their sisters, but competitors for the scraps. And I bow out of the competition. I am not interested in playing the game. Some feminists criticize women who choose to stay home as if this is a betrayal of feminism. The fact is, some women stay home, some work. Many, too many, don't have the choice of whether or not to work. But what we do have the choice of is what we pass on to the next generation. We can choose to teach our children about the struggle that has gone on for women's rights, teach our daughters to be strong, to follow their vision, and not be afraid to ask for help from their sisters. We can teach our sons to respect all women, not just the ones who are good girls, to look past the surface and treat women as they would want themselves to be treated, which is one of our principles. To teach our children, both our sons and our daughters, that all people are deserving of love and grace. When I look at my daughters, I want them to have more options. I find many of those options here, in this place, in the form of Unitarian Universalism. Our youth can participate in sex education, also known as Our Whole Lives or OWL, that is real, factual, comprehensive information about respecting and protecting themselves and their partners. No lies, no shame. Our youth participate actively in helping the community, including a Habitat for Humanity project every year, to learn to help those who are less lucky than we are. I want these things for my daughters, for your daughters, for your sons. I want them to be able to build the world in their own image, the world they imagine it to be, just and beautiful. I want them to find people who love them completely and without reservation, who believe in them. I want them to have the strength of vision to look into the future and make that future come come back to us.